Hey, Tony Gaskins here. Now listen, saw a post and I saw a couple. So one was an article talking about men is going to be the loneliest group, and another was a man who was talking. I think he is a professor or something, and he was talking about men who aren't having sex in their 30s because of online dating and just not being picked in online dating, and that's causing a huge problem. Like, it's developing these broke lonely men, and he said that's one of the most dangerous things. And I've always said that one of the most dangerous things on earth is an insecure man. And the reason being is because when men are hurting, men act out. And when you think back to a little boy who's angry, he acts out. He kicks, he punches, he throws, he fusses, he fights. And it's different than little girls, which is different than women and men. So that's why we have not ever really, I'm sure it maybe has happened once or twice or maybe more, but we never see female mass. When that happens, we never see it being a woman. It is always a man. And that man is suffering from insecurity, pain, hurt. It's just men acting out. Men do not handle pain well. Most men. And men are not honest about that. Now, one of the things I don't like about this topic of men being lonely is the women who are bitter. Uh-huh. You ain't read the statistics. Men gonna be the loneliest creatures on earth. Uh-huh. That's what you get. It's like, listen, that's not productive. That's not gonna help us. And I don't feel sorry for men in the least. I am worried for society, but what I am aware of is the adversary. A lot of people are getting too smart for good and evil. They think God ain't real, the devil ain't real, and they don't believe in spiritual forces. They don't understand that we come from a spirit. We don't come from this spontaneous combustion in the sky. We come from an all-knowing beginning and end, Alpha and Omega. You cannot design this world off of no combustion in the sky. There has to be a supernatural spiritual power. And when you look at the complexities of animals and the creatures in the sea and humans, there has to be a supernatural. This ain't finna happen off of something exploding in the sky. But we have people who believe that. And that's our problem. Is as humans, we try to wrap our mind around God. And because we cannot wrap our mind around God, it then leads humans to not believe in God. So humans start to question God because they can't see God. They can't audibly hear God on average across the board like every person. So people start to question, is this real? Is this a fairy tale? And we all go down that path at some point in life, depending on what we listening to, who we talking to, or what have you. And then for those of us who know, because we've had an encounter with God, and we know that some of the things that have happened in our life can only be because of God, then we snap on out of that. And see, when you know God, then you're going to have a fear and a reverence for God when you really believe in the power of God. If you don't know God and you don't fear God, you don't reverence God, you don't believe in the power of God, you don't believe there is a God, then you're not going to have any guidance. You're not going to have any real moral compass, because when humans set our own moral compass, we have no morals. As humans, we would steal, we would kill, we would cheat, we would do what we feel like doing. But when you have a moral compass, when you have guidelines, when you have structure, then you know you can't do just what you feel like doing. You have to do what is right. I could feel like going and sleeping with another woman, but I know that is wrong because I know that will break my vows. That will be a sin against God. It will be a sin against my wife. It will open me up for attack, spiritual attack, physical attack. It will hurt my children. So I know that that is wrong, that what comes from that is not healthy. Now, in certain societies, certain parts of the world, certain religions, they see it differently. And so they just don't perceive it as wrong because it's accepted. It's allowed for a man to have multiple wives or what have you. But in my culture, that's not allowed. You out of bounds. And so what we have to understand today is that with this lawlessness, with this lack of morals, with this lack of a moral code, of a moral compass, men are being led by lust. Men are being led by their flesh. So as a result, we're all over the place, meaning fathers are not really active and really paying attention to their children. So because fathers are not really active and paying attention to their children, a man's voice does something different than a woman's voice. Children respect a woman's voice, but I notice it all the time. Like now my son, he pretty across the board. My oldest, my sons, they pretty across the board with me and their mama, but they know when it get down to business, they fear me more than they mama. And both of us will get physical in the sense of you'll be up on a wall. That's just how we are, but we don't have to go there. But my sons know, and just logically, like they know if I got to park that behind, I'm gonna come with more force, more that all this right here. Their mama ain't got all that. She's strong now, but when I got to come with that, she ain't got all that. You see what I'm saying? So they already know and they understand. And I'm bigger than their mama. I'm stronger than their mama. My voice deeper than their mama. And my punishment worse than their mama. So my oldest son ain't had his phone for 5 weeks. That's because I put down the punishment. Whereas in mama, it might be 2 weeks. And yeah, it'll go longer. One time he didn't have his stuff for 5 months. He got in trouble in school one time. But we own him. But what we've learned is it kind of hold him in check for a little while. But people gonna do what they want to do. But I'm in my son's life, and I'm talking to them, and I'm active with them. But what happens is when a man does not have a father, or a man does not have an active father. So a lot of white fathers are there, and they may do practice and they do things like that. A lot of them there. So they see a provider, but they may not talk to their child because they want to be the best friend. And they want to let the mama be the bad person when she got to be the bad person, and the dad want to be the friend. And the mama be the bad person. And the same thing with a lot of fathers of color as well. Being in the home may just be there. And my wife has said to me several times, I'm always the bad person. I'm always on them. And I'm like, well, you dealing with schoolwork, and that's your area, that's your arena. Now me, I'm dealing with life. Like, yeah, I care about school, but not as much as I care about life. And yes, sir, no, sir. I taught my sons, yes, sir, no, sir. Yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. That come from my side of the family, not my wife's side, because they Jamaican. So they say, yeah, man, in Jamaica. They don't say yes, sir, in Jamaica. When I said yes, sir, in Jamaica, the man driving us was like, don't say sir here. We say yeah, man. We don't say sir. And I was like, yes, sir. That's how I'm raised. And so that go a long ways in the USA. So I teach my sons that respect. I teach them to respect their elders. If they disrespect for their teacher, they in a whole lot of trouble. They disrespect to their coaches, they in a whole lot of trouble. And so I teach them respect. And then that's backed up by my wife, but I took it to another level. And then with schoolwork, she really straight A's, no A minuses. So we active in their life, but what happened is a lot of boys don't have that. A lot of boys don't have structure. So yes, I was a drug dealer. Yes, I was a womanizer. Yes, I got in trouble. Yes, I got arrested for stealing. I got in trouble. Had I not had structure, I would have been way worse. See, me having structure from the age of 6, I had to be in church like 2 or 3 times a week. And I couldn't listen to secular music. I couldn't listen to secular music, and I could not do normal things that other kids was doing. I couldn't watch rated R movies. I couldn't even watch PG-13 movies until I was 13. And even then, I couldn't watch every movie. So I had structure. I had a curfew. I got a whooping at 17 for coming in after curfew. My daddy literally got either, it was a paddle or like a little piece of wood or a belt or something, and he whooped me at 17. I got a whooping. And he always told me, don't matter how old you get, you gonna respect me. I brought you in this world, I'll take you out. To this day, because of how my daddy raised me, I don't get out the mouth sideways with my daddy. I'm respectful to my daddy. I'm respectful to my daddy. I'm respectful to my mama still because of how I was raised. Now, I can't say the same for my sister. She'll get beside herself sometimes, but she was raised differently. We raised together, but she was the baby. She was spoiled more. I was the boy. They was easy on me in the sense of not having to do chores and stuff, which is not a good thing, but because I played a lot of sports, but they still was hard on me as far as character and respect. And what's happening is, in our society, boys are being left to themselves. And so because boys are being left to themselves and the hands are idle, the mind is idle. And so that idle mind is given to everything else. So now boys become men, and men have idle minds as well. And so what this is given to as a child is given to toxic music. The music is horrendous. Horrible. It is, the music is absolutely horrible that the kids listen to. My wife, trying to be funny last night, when I had a headphone in, she said, "You listen to something?" I was like, "No, we was on the plane, and I was reading on my Kindle, and she reading on her Kindle, and she put on heavy metal, trying to be funny. But when she put it on, we looked at it, and I'm like, "What is you doing?" And then we looked at it, and she was on the lyrics page. And that heavy metal was bad. That heavy metal lyrics, that's what a lot of the other kids listen to. So it's typically, country music, heavy metal, and rap music. And the kids who listen to country, a lot of them listen to rap too. And so I'm listening to heavy metal. I wouldn't listen to it, but we was reading the lyrics for a little bit. I'm like, what the world? What this thing talk about? It sounded like it was talking about a school shooting or a revolt of the whites versus the blacks. I'm like, what the world? Training these kids for? So I say, oh man, this in its own right is just as bad as this hip hop music. So these kids are left to that, and it's changing the personality. We've seen our son, our 15-year-old, change. He's still a great kid, still got straight A's, got 1 A minus in his AP class, but still energy different and have to constantly be checking them. Boys around the age of 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 get introduced to masturbation. That right there is like the forbidden fruit because it opens them up to a whole new world. So now when that happens, that becomes an addiction because of that release from the brain. So go and take a little time and Google what happens in the brain when you have an orgasm. So because of that release from the brain, that release is the same release that you get from other things you enjoy, like soda or certain food or video game. It's the same part of the brain that's activated when somebody snort cocaine. So that release is addictive. It's forms an addiction. So what happens is, as young men, when we introduce to that, we do that every day. So we start to masturbate every day. And I'm not sure about a woman when she introduced to it, and if that's the case. And I know for women it's just a different body. It's way more complex. Where for a man, it's just one way to do it. It ain't no 50 million ways. It ain't no different shapes and all of this. It's just things shaped one way and it worked one way. For women body different. And one woman body don't work the same as the next woman body. And so that's different. We ain't going there. But on the man, it's every day. And then it come to a place, and a lot of women don't understand this. A lot of women don't know this. So you kind of in the locker room right now, but men know this. But men, that thing, that release, you get that, they get that hit, and then it's like a high. It's a good feeling. It relax you, calm you down, what have you. But that could be done very quickly. So that could be done in 30 seconds. It could be done in 30 seconds. Other guys, you get a point, you build up your tolerance. Some men, they doing that 3 times, 5 times a day, I've heard. And I remember when I was a young man, 19, 20, I'd take me a little break at work on the summer job. Go on in there, get my little son. And just right there, corporate bathroom, in the toilet stool. And I wasn't that gone, because I didn't even watch pornography. You see what I'm saying? So this is real that we don't talk about. We can't talk about it in the church. But this is why men becoming single. Women trying to say it's because of standards. Listen, them standards is trash. Women's standards still is terrible. Women's standards still is terrible. It's a lot. Every woman say this her standard, this her standard, this her standard, this her standard. Let a man come in tall, dark, and handsome. She finna put up with some mess for a while. She finna put up with, and don't let that meat leg be good. She finna put up with some mess. So women, y'all need to stop that. Talking about, our standards is Icarus. No, it ain't. You still have sex before marriage. When y'all stop having sex before marriage, when y'all stop letting men sleep with you before marriage, that's when you can say your standards is higher. That is the only standard that matter to a man. If you asleep with a man before marriage, your standards ain't high enough. Your standards ain't high enough. You'll let a man yell at you, a man cuss at you, and it happen. It happens. So let's just be real about these standards. And then don't let marriage happen and then kids happen. It get even harder to have standards because you trying to make this family work. Come on now, let's be real about that now. But what's happening is, I'm gonna tell you why men becoming lonely is because men, this is the thing what we're not understanding, is all of this technology is created by socially awkward introverts. Like technology, coding is people who are antisocial. 99% of coders are antisocial. So they are creating a world for them. So video games are created by people who are antisocial. They're not created by outgoing social butterflies. It's created by men, and it may be women in it now too, but it's created by men who are locked in a room. And to learn coding, I don't know anybody, because I was an athlete and because I was out and about town. I don't know a single person who can code. People who can code, like really code, they in the house. So what men don't realize is this metaverse and these video games and social media, Instagram and dating apps is created by people who are introverts and antisocial. And this is what we are consuming. So we are developing more antisocial habits, and we're operating antisocial behavior instead of being social. So because a man created a social network like Instagram, like Snapchat, like Facebook, because men created these, LinkedIn, all of these created by men. And they all created by like white or Asian men, most on white men. And when you look at these men, you do not see a white man who looked like the star quarterback. You see a white man who looked like the guy who sat by himself in the cafeteria, in the lunchroom, on average. And I ain't no disrespect now. I'm just calling a spade. Okay? And so when you start to utilize these things, and you're on Instagram all day, you're on Snapchat all day, you becoming more stimulated digitally instead of physically. You stimulated by what you see on your phone, and you build a relationship and a response to what you see on your phone. See, listen, this ain't rocket science. I'm not a therapist. I'm not a sociologist, and I'm breaking this on down for you now with the help of God. So these men are creating virtual worlds. Instagram is a virtual world for antisocial, for introverts who are introvertedly extrovert. So it's like you want to make a video, you want to make a reel, you want the world to see it, but you don't necessarily want to interact with the world. And I get it because I'm an introvert. And I don't like interacting with people in real life. But the one thing I was always into was women. I was always into interacting with the opposite sex for whatever reason that, and I don't know, God just put it in me. And growing up, this the thing about being insecure. When a man is receiving praise and affirmation, it builds his confidence. So I always heard growing up, you have pretty eyes. You're a handsome young man. You're handsome. So that built my confidence. And I heard it from women. And I even sometimes heard it from men. And so because of that, it built my confidence enough with women to where I was confident enough to go talk to a woman, even though I was so shy and so quiet. I was not afraid to talk to a woman. And I didn't want to talk to everybody. I didn't want to talk to a group of people. I didn't want to be the life of the party, but I wasn't afraid to talk to a woman. Today, men are being so drawn in by their phone. And so here's what's happening too. A lot of porn stars are introverts. Because when you are extrovert, you ain't got to get into that. In the sense of you going out and you doing it in real life. Me personally, I've never like sat down and been indulged and been addicted to pornography, because for me it does not make sense. Me, I'm a physical person. Like, I don't want to be looking at somebody else do this act and then touching on myself and making my skin raw from keep messing with myself from watching somebody else do something. Me, I'm a more physical touch. And that's because I was outside. So I'm more physical. So growing up, I didn't play video games. A lot of guys play video games. I didn't play video game. I got a computer later on. I got a video game later on, Super Nintendo, got the little slow computer. But the video game, I literally could count on one hand in my mind, honestly, how many times I played that Super Nintendo. And it typically was when I had family over to the house and we got too hot outside, we'll come inside and play a little NBA Jam on the Super Nintendo. And I only remember playing it one time in my mind with my cousin Albert. But other than that, I really didn't play the video game. But I do remember being outside and playing against my best friend to 11 in basketball, 32 games in a row, and beating him 31 of the 32. And me being 5 months older than him. But he actually bigger than me, taller than me, heavier than me. But I was that guy. You see what I'm saying? And so I'm saying that jokingly. Because people are like, oh, he arrogant. Don't let, and Deion Sanders got this from me in my tweets. He followed me on Twitter and I was tweeting this thing. Then he come up with this quote. Don't let my confidence offend your insecurity. Now see, we was outside. Throw them up, bust them up. That's the football game. 21, basketball game. Kickball, softball. We outside. We on bicycles. As time started to go on, more people, the computer was made by, who was a computer made by? It wasn't made by the star quarterback. The computer was not made by the quarterback. The computer was made by the antisocial, socially awkward introvert, who was the internet created by, the same type of person, who was social media created by, the same type of person, who was video games created by, the same type of person. It's all the same type of men. And it's because they were not affirmed. They did not have confidence in the real world. And that was a failure of their mother and their father by not affirming them, or it just was a happenstance of their lifestyle if they was in an orphanage, or if they was, but typically that's not the case because that stuff take time and money. You got to have resources to build a computer and code and all of that. And so listen, then you got the people who are by being left to themselves. You have people who, when you left to yourself and you're being raised by people who were left to themselves, then it becomes a filthy society. So here's this mom that I knew in my family, not my mama, one of my cousin's mama. She was left to herself. She was raised one of several children. So she was left to herself. She did what she wanted to do. She became a single mother. And she got loose sexually. She started dealing with women. She started getting into all this stuff. So she started getting into magazines, nasty magazines. So me and my cousins, we found these magazines. What we saw in the magazines, we started trying to do in real life from what we saw in the magazines. So what that means is we 8, 9 years old doing oral sex. 8, 9 years old boys, we out there licking on vajay. Yeah, because of what we saw in the magazine. Parents not thinking about that when they got that nasty stuff in their house and it's accessible to their children. So guess what? So now we out there doing that. Now we're sexually promiscuous. Everybody, if they really know what they doing, they losing their virginity 10, 11 years old. Girls literally being fully filled at 9, 10, 11 years old by boys who are 15, 16, 18, 20, 25 in little girls. This is the real world. This is what we don't talk about. This is what we have gone through, what we have lived through, but we ignore it. And we act like, oh, this ain't real. Like we live somewhere different. No, we was in the real world. So the same thing that we lived through and that we saw and that we saw other people experience is the same thing that this generation is going through on a whole nother level. So that's why you see this young lady going around doing these interviews, and she saying 1 year, her senior year, she slept with 80 something men. She slept with over 80 men her senior year. So in her life, she probably over 1,000. She probably in the thousands of partners. She definitely got something going on down there, and if she don't yet, I don't see how not, but I believe she definitely got to have, and if not, something gonna be going on eventually, because the wages of sin, because she in fornication, she's not married, sleeping with her husband, the wages of sin is death. Point blank period. You keep playing with it, it's gonna cost you. it's gonna cost you. And so, listen to me. So we out here doing this. So then you have somebody who get perverted enough that they say, let's record this. So they say, let's record it. And then all of us being left to ourselves, to where everyday people. I have a cousin, a male cousin, who came to me when I started producing films. He came to me and he said, cuz, I want to produce nasty movies. Well, guess what? It was in his father's house that I saw a nasty movie. His daddy used to have the VHS of pornography just sitting in the living room under the cabinet, not with a lock on it. And me and my young cousin get that tape, look at the cover, and I can't remember if we watched it or not, but I remember seeing the cover and us looking at it, trying to hurry up and get out the way before his daddy came home or before we got caught. And so his family, who was my other cousin, say he want to make nasty movies. So this is the mindset of men. Men are capitalists. Men are enterprising. Men are entrepreneurial. So if a man is left to himself and he's sleeping around, eventually he's going to come to a place to where he wants to make money from it. And this is the invention of pornography. So now this pornography goes and it is on VHS. And then it's on DVD. And then it's on the computer. It's on the internet. Then it's on applications. And it is legalized because every man, and when I say every, I don't mean 100%, but I mean a large percentage. So including your politicians, the people who make the laws, they indulging in this stuff. And so if they outlaw it, it means they weird. It means that they would be saying, I'm nasty and what I'm doing is immoral. So they don't pass laws to make pornography illegal. It's legalized because they into it too. They doing it too. And also they understand the human mind. They understand the addiction that is formed. So they realize this is going to make trillions of dollars. And it is not a drug. And it's not about empowering a certain demographic. So if you allow certain drug to be sold legally, then minorities will be able to build business and make a lot of business because they already then got into that and that stuff was dropped off in the community. But when you take and you outlaw that, now you can punish the minorities and lock them up and get free labor, also get them off the streets, getting them out your communities, getting them out your neighborhoods, and cripple their families so that they always on welfare, always on food stamps, always behind the 8 ball. But then the other stuff that is just as nasty, just as detrimental, like pornography, or you legalize that because it's other demographics across the board that's indulging in that. So that's why that is legal. And so because it's legal now, it's a trickle down effect. So you got parents who was raised by themselves, who raised themselves. And so they lawless. They sexually immoral. And that's showing up in their household. And so now they children sexually immoral. So now that the children sexually immoral, now these men are becoming more and more into artificial stimulation on a video. So now because of that, a man gets an immediate response. He gets instant gratification. That's what masturbation is, instant gratification. You don't have to have a conversation. You ain't got to pay for no dinner. You ain't got to dress up. You ain't got to leave your house. You ain't got to spend no gas money. You ain't got to do nothing. All you got to do is turn on your phone and turn that video on, or go on Instagram and get that picture, or go on YouTube and get that video, or go wherever and get that video or that picture, and go in your bathroom, or if you got your own room, you live by yourself or something, and voila, instant gratification. You ain't got to do nothing else. So now that becomes so addicting, and it's so stimulating, it's so right there, then men start to say, why am I finna be feeding a woman and putting a roof over a woman's head and working for this woman when I got this woman on this phone? And why do I want kids again when I want to be in the bathroom or in the bedroom yanking that thing 5-10 times a day? And this is what's taking over. This was taking over. And the reason why I know is because I work with young men. I don't suffer from this, to God be the glory. But I don't want to judge them and bash them and talk down to them. But I work with young men. When I say young men, I'm talking about 18 and up. But I know it's starting before then. They got into it when they was in high school. And now they're so immersed into this universe of artificial stimulation where there's no physical touch, there's no human interaction, but yet they get instant gratification. And that is why men are not approaching women anymore, because they are artificially stimulated and they wrapped up in this artificial world, this virtual world, this digital world, where they get to have a full, complete relationship with this woman on a screen. And they get to see her perform acts, and they get to pretend that the person she performing it to is them. And eventually, and if it's not already, it's gonna be on that headset where they're gonna get to be in there looking at her doing these acts, and it's gonna feel like it's them, but it's gonna be their hand. And then they're gonna have them a robot. I don't know if they got a robot, but they got the dolls. And they got like the little body. It's like a body, and they got the body parts, and they got the holes, and it's flesh material, and they got that out there now. And so now they could put that headset on, watch these videos, and I'm sure it's a corner for that on this little system, or it's gonna be, or they done hacked it because they know how to code. Anything that could be coded could be decoded, and they finna watch this. And if you could download an app, then they could download Pornhub, they could download OnlyFans. And guess what? I received emails from several women saying, hey, I caught my man with a Pornhub. I caught my man with an OnlyFans. If he got a wife, or if he has a fiance or a girlfriend and we are sexually active, why does he need that? And that is because it is fantasy land. That's because he's more into that type of body. His woman may have a stomach, and he may have this woman on this video who has a six-pack almost, or she just got a flat stomach. His woman may have a smaller butt, and he got this woman with a big old booty. Or his woman may have a big old booty, and he got this woman with a little old booty. His woman may have smaller breasts, and he got this woman with big, or vice versa. So these men who were left to themselves as children, as teenagers, and they had that cell phone, and they went down that rabbit hole. They found this stuff on their phone, and then they became, because when you are a young man and you have this, we ain't had that kind of phone. We ain't had that kind of phone, and my computer was in the living room. So whenever I'm on the computer, my mama right there, my daddy walking by, they could see me on the instant messenger. So I couldn't get in no funny business. I ain't had nothing in my room. And I ain't had no cell phone till probably high school, but they didn't have videos. We didn't have video on cell phone. So we couldn't do nothing. And then my daddy didn't have them tapes and magazines, because my dad was a assistant pastor, and then he became an actual pastor when I turned 14 of his own church. So in my house, there was no nasty magazines, there was no nasty movies. So I could not get into that stuff like other kids. And that is, I believe, the reason why I'm not into pornography as a grown man. And that's how I can stand on the outside and look in, and I could understand it, because I know the addiction of, masturbation and of sex. And so now, me being married, I'm not addicted to masturbation. But anytime if me and my wife come together, I'm chasing around. I'm chasing around every day. What the cat chasing a mouse. I'm chasing around every day because of the same reason. So when a man, because of that release, because of that feeling. So when a man using Angela, it's the same thing. And so now these men, they are, oh yeah, now we in school now, I'm teaching. And so now, when he met my wife, bring him a little breakfast. She looking at me crazy. Yeah, get real in here now. Regassing. So now, these men, when they get into this and they get that feeling, it's so instant. And I know, because I'm receiving thousands of emails. And here's the thing. This is the thing. So women are telling themselves, oh, men are lonely because of our standards. That's not the truth. Because a man can easily live up to a woman's standards if he wants to. Men are lonely because of their addictions in the dark. Because guess what? With a woman, this is what you have to understand. With a woman, it's a process. So if a husband want to be with his wife, and his wife loves herself, she respects herself, she's not no slave, he has to talk nicely to her all day long. He got to talk nicely to her all day. He say one thing that get on her nerves, you ain't get none. And not in no fun and joyous and enjoyable way. You ain't get none. That's what husbands deal with. That's what boyfriends, fiancés who sexually active with a woman deal with. You got to talk nicely. You got to make love. And this is what I heard a lady say in college, and I've stuck with it. I heard a woman, a college girl, she said, I want a man to make love to my mind, not just to my body. Now, she wasn't in the looks category to be making that statement, because it's just how the world is set up on the look scale. But she was a poet, so she come up with that. It sounded good, and it makes sense now. And still, that even still don't work a lot of times with husbands, because women are tired. Cleaning the housework is tiresome. It's monotonous. It's draining. It's a lot going on with that right there. So you got to understand, women be tired. And as men, because of being left to ourselves or not being raised right, a lot of times we not the best around the house. So the woman end up doing it all herself, or the man go in there and do it wrong, and the woman got to do it over. And that's pitiful. So if you raising a son, do better, so your son don't have that story. We can't go back in the time, but if you got a son, you could do better. And so now listen to me. So now these men are coming to a place and they're saying, man, I just said one thing. Like, I just asked the question and she got an attitude. Or she got a headache, or she tired, or she done put on a lot of weight, or she done stopped working out, or she done this or that. So these men is coming into all of these things with their woman. And this is something that women don't want to address now. This is something that a lot of women don't want to address, because it's a lot of men, and men too though, but men and women, when we get in a relationship, a lot of times we let ourselves go. I just saw a meme about it the other day. They showed that Samoan man from the movie who all ripped up, he cut up. I think he was with Eric Benet. I think he was Eric Benet's ex-wife. I don't remember her name. But that man, they showed him all ripped and cut up, and it was like single life. And then they showed him all overweight and big, and I'm talking about married life. Because when you get married, you're not working for a suitor, so you get comfortable. And that's why we call it marriage weight, because most people put on weight in marriage. And so now men, even men with a keg for a stomach, will have the nerve to complain about their woman weight gain. And the reason why they complain about their woman weight gain, because they will see another man with a keg stomach and see him with a very slim wife. But that woman could just be genetically slim. So what men are doing, men going to the barbershop, men going to the locker room, men going to the workplace and complaining about marriage. Complaining about marriage, complaining about relationships. So it's making other men say, what in the heck is the benefit of marriage? And this is the question that a young man who was maybe 23 or 24, he's a professional athlete. He called me. He said, Tony, honestly, what is the benefit of marriage? And to be honest with you, I really didn't have a real answer that would mean something to him. It means something to me because of where I'm at in my life, in my belief system. But means something to him, it was kind of like, that's why these guys on these podcasts, and that's why they're saying this. They're saying, what do you mean, like companionship? I got friends. I can hang out all day and just go home when I'm ready to go to sleep. Well, okay, companionship. What you talking about? Okay, like, a woman ain't no slave. A woman ain't no do-girl, right? So what you mean having somebody to cook for you, having somebody to pack your bag when you're going out of town? Like, I can hire an assistant. I can hire a chef. I can hire a house cleaner. So now men rationalizing this thing like this, and they saying, and I get to sleep around. I get to sleep with multiple different women. I get to see multiple different booties, multiple different. And so that's why you have to have a moral code in order for marriage to make sense. You got to have a moral compass. But because adults was raised by themselves, left to themselves, then the children being raised by themselves, left to themselves. So it's a vicious cycle. So now men are saying, hey, I'd rather be lonely. The article's spinning as men are lonely. But no man is going to these writers and saying, I'm lonely. Because it's women a dime a dozen. It's so many women. Like, he could go get any kind of woman. He choosing to be lonely. He choosing to be alone. And you look at these men that have podcasts. How many men you know that you listen to on a podcast, whether it's about relationships, whether it's about money, whether it's about business, whether it's about whatever, that you look at him and you say, why are you single? Because I know 1 million women would line up to be your wife. So why are you single? It's not because the women are not available. It's because he choosing to be single. And then women saying, oh, it's because our standard. No, you got to dig deeper than that. It's because of the dysfunction in the dark. It's because of the pornography. It's because of social media. It's because of the video games. It's because of instant gratification. It's because of having a reward without having to work. As a married man, if you want to have enjoyable in the bedroom, you got to cross your T's and dot your I's. Yes, you can have a wife that does it obligatory, that she feels obligated to do it, and she does it with a frown. She does it no enthusiasm, and she's just doing it to be doing it. But for a woman to be engaged and want to be there, everything have to be clicking on all cylinders. She have to have had a perfect day. She got to have help around the house. She got to have bills paid. She got to have all of that. And guess what? A real man of God who believes in the scripture that says, love your husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church. We invite the work. We embrace the challenge and say, okay, let me make love to my woman mine. and let me make her life easier. Let me try to help her out. Let me serve her. Let me do some things for her. And then at night, I get to have me a blast with a woman that I know is mine. With a woman that I know. I know where she been at all day. Been around her all day. Done seen her all day. And it ain't a lot of angelanes coming in and out of her like these other women that these men be paying for, and these women that these men be picking up on the side of the road, in the club, in the lounge, and being able to sleep with them on the first night or in the first week. And it's like, hey, playboy, you not the only thing inserting her. It's not your game. That's her lifestyle. That's how she live. It ain't you, my boy. That's her. That's how she live. So I'd rather have me a woman who just want me, and she want to be with me, and she like my body, and she into me, and we having our fun. But guess what? That's a process, and that take work, because it's real, it's authentic, it's organic. Anything that's real take work. Anything that's worth having, it take time, it take work. It ain't no wham bam, thank you ma'am. It takes some time, and it got to be realistic. It got to be at the right time. And so it's not going to be every day. If it's real, it ain't going to be every day. And that's what these men, because they could just turn the video on and they could just, or they could go get an escort, boom, pay a little money, go get a stripper, pay a little money, go get somebody offline, meet up with her, take on a nice dinner, got in the bed. Because of all that instant gratification from women who have no standards, men are expecting women with standards to behave the same way. And then when a man get a woman who is wife material, and she got standards, and she not no jack in the box like them other women, he like, whoa, what's going on? This too much work. And that is what these guys are saying, and not realizing that that mindset comes from dysfunction. That mindset comes from immorality. That mindset comes from a Sodom and Gomorrah spirit. That mindset comes from a spirit that is going to devour you from the inside out. Because see, with God, it's the narrow road. It's the long road. It's not the shortcuts. It's not the broad road. It's not the easy way. When you have morals, it's going to take you a longer time when you have morals. When you doing things authentically. That's what people was talking about with my videos. I'm shooting the videos without all the production, without all the editing, without all the cameramen. So it take me longer to build. That's why you see the other coaches with million subscribers, 500,000, 600,000, 700,000. It ain't that they better than me. It ain't that they got more wisdom than me. It's that they got more packaging and production than me. So I can't win with lights and glitz and glam. I got to win with substance. And that's all I got to give is substance. But I suffer from not having the lights and glitz and glam, because of there's a section of the world that they will be okay with your substance if you're willing to lure them in with the bright lights. So that's why you've been seeing me use thumbnails. And some of those videos do better, but not really. It really depends on the topic. And so for me and my audience, if the question is answering, if the title is answering a question about a man, it does the best. Anything outside of that, it's gonna do regular. And YouTube to put me in that lane. If you answer a question about men, we're gonna put you in the algorithm. You want to talk on something else, we finna let your video sit. Point blank period. And so because of this same instant gratification, so you go on social media, you got limited time. What the thumbnail helps you do is see a big title that's on a bright background or a colorful background to tell you if you need to waste your time on this video. If somebody just got a still shot from the video, you don't know what the video about, you then got to look over to the side to read the little title. If your vision ain't all that good, or if you just perusing, you ain't got time to read each thing. So you're reading the big thumbnail because it's easier. Instant gratification, microwave society. So the same thing that men suffering from is the same thing women suffering from in a similar way. That's why the bright and shiny is what sells. That's how the commercials are. That's how the clothes sell. That's how the groceries sell. That's how the weave sell. The weave, the bundles. You notice that these women selling waist trainers, these women selling bundles, these women selling makeup, this is all stuff that women need. This all stuff that every woman gonna buy. But these women are producing $50,000 commercials as independent, no outside money from like major corporations. They producing commercials. They renting out airplanes, jets. They renting out studios to produce a commercial to sell something that costs $20. They spending $50,000, $100,000 to sell something that costs $20, $40, $60, $100 because of our society wanting everything easy, everything fast, and everything packaged. And it's a small amount of people who they just want it straight no chaser. And so marriage is straight no chaser. Pornography, that's glitz and glam, instant gratification, microwave society. And so listen to me, men who are lawless, meaning no God, no fear for God, no relationship with God, which is majority of men today, don't have a real relationship with God. Even men who say they are Christian, and even women. It's a lot of women that I meet that say they are Christian and really do not live by the Holy Bible. And so because that's the world we live in, we are suffering. Because when you don't have a moral code, when you ain't got standards, when you ain't got guidelines, when you ain't got something you're supposed to be living by and adhering to, because there are consequences if you don't, then you just willy-nilly, you just living how you want to live. And that's what's producing this disjointed, broken, segregated, separated society where it's men versus women, women versus men, and we are not coming together because we want everything packaged and pretty with a bow. Women want a man who will go out and bust his butt and make a living and then come home and help clean up the house too, while she has been home all day or not having to work. And that's not reality. That you're going to have a man that's fixing to be lumberjack and then be Casanova. That's not the thing. Men want a woman who finna be this six-figure woman in the boardroom, but then come home and cook for the kids, help them with homework, and then be a porn star in the bedroom. That's not a reality. You're not finna have no superwoman. You're not finna have no superman. You're gonna have to understand that your partner is gonna be good in their areas. And that's it. They're not gonna be good in every single area. And as long as their weaknesses are not infidelity or abuse, then you good. But we want perfection. And that's why we failing. Because we want people to be perfect instead of people to be people. People to be flawed humans under God, working to be better every day. And so because we want everything packaged and pretty in a Tiffany box with a bow, we losing. Instead of seeing people the way God sees them, loving them, working with them, growing with them, building with them, recognizing our flaws, no different than they flaws, and us addressing these flaws, and let's work on these flaws and let's get better. And let's grow, let's change, let's love, and let's be under God, loving God, serving God, living by the word of God, and let's have something real. And that's what we got to get to. Hey, if you got to this point, remember, TonyGasAcademy.com. I got something for you. It's 80% off. The coupon code is thankful. The course already listed at 50% off. So when you use the coupon code thankful, it's taking another 30% off. So all the courses that you want right now, 80% off. And you had to get here to learn that. Hey, God bless you. We'll talk soon.